Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to the Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend. He is a director. He is actually the director of a Pro-Rrasslin movie. He's the one and only Pablo Romero-Estavez. Pablo, what's going on, my man?
Nothing much. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Dude, I am super psyched. I don't know what happened, and I didn't see this, and I started kind of like not. I hate to call it research, but I checked out the film trailer, and I was just like, this is the film that I never knew I wanted, and I'm glad it's damn here, and I'm glad like my friend is attached to it, bringing it to life. This is amazing.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Hopefully, you're not the only person feeling that way. So we'll see how many people really want it, right?
Dude, I mean, I do. So I'm gonna throw my hat in there. I'm gonna probably once things get better, drop by the IndieGoGo account and just just say
Yeah, plugging it early. I like that. Yeah. That's where we're at right now. Is the IndieGoGo. So
Yeah, dude, that's so cool because I mean, obviously, you being a director, that's so much more like invasive and what have you. But like, I love that the fact that, like, heck, I went to radio school. I went to radio school back in the early 2000s and FCC regulations or whatever, and I've got more tech in the corner of my apartment to do the thing, and nobody senses. I can say fuck, and nobody gives a damn. It's great.
Well, that's funny you say. I did radio too a little bit in college, not too much, but I had a little radio show where I would go and goof off and actually talk about wrestling a lot, just because that's just what I was really into. So
Cause why not? Cause why not wrestling? And our friend, good brother, host of many a things, Carl Diamond says, "Go Pablo." That's what we're saying.
Carl, thanks for tuning in, man.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, obviously, the Legend of Dirty Ron, right, is a small part of the journey, right? So, I mean, I want to know, how did you figure out like directing? That's what I want to do. Like, I want to tell stories on screen.
Well, really, I kind of like almost fell into it. I mean, I don't want to say, by default, but like, I always wanted to have some sort of part in production. Actually, like most of my bigger things, like if people like actually like try to Google me or anything, they'll see me doing a lot of editing for like music videos. But yeah, I kind of just fell into directing a little bit more because it comes down to kind of like understanding the editing process, like understanding like what all the little pieces like that make up a film. And yeah, I really love editing, honestly. Like, but obviously, out of wanting to make my own content, I wanted to originally be like a jack of all trades. When I went to school for television film production, and I guess kind of wanted to learn a little bit about everything. I just recently tweeted out I had this like Spike Lee story where I got to meet Spike Lee one time, like very briefly at an FYE at the Esplanade Mall in Kenner, Louisiana, and he like very like directly, I was just like, hey man, I'm an aspiring like filmmaker. Like, what advice do you have for me? I had maybe like a few seconds of his time, and you could tell he was just kind of like not going through the motions, but he was like, trying to get through the line or whatever, and like very direct. Can I curse on here at all? I don't. Oh, you said it. Yeah, I can. I can say fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
So very directly, he was just like, write your own shit. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's probably the hardest aspect of it all, is writing. But like, I kind of like look up to guys like Spike Lee, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, like all those like indie film guys that kind of do dip their hands into a little bit of everything. So like coming into directing, that's kind of what it was. It was just like me, like knowing a little bit out of all those elements, and then knowing the final part of the process, which is post production, to where it was like, hey, like I know all the ingredients that kind of go into this. I had I kind of directed, I co-directed a feature-length comedy in Louisiana, a very low-budget one called River Ridge. Um, and then, when I did like wrestling, I was like producing, but then that also involved like a lot of like hands-on directing. You've been there and kind of like seen that process as well. And then, yeah, like with this project, when it was like presented to me, I co-wrote it with Mikey Gordon, who plays Dirty Ron, who is Dirty Ron, right? And yeah, fell into the directing aspect just so because I wanted to see my vision of like what I had in my mind when I put, I don't want to say pen to paper because, I don't know, fingers to keyboards. I was like, I want to kind of see it through because we had a very specific kind of like idea of what we wanted it to be. So this is kind of officially my feature-length directorial debut. I've done like a few music videos, but yeah, I kind of just like fell into it by just wanting to tell my story. But I mean, I've always been a storyteller and just loved entertaining people, so that too, right?
Well, I love that you mentioned, I mean, Spike Lee, and it's crazy because like Spike Lee now is like an established, name, right? But you got to remember, like when we were kids, like to see somebody of like color do his thing and like literally do like the way he wanted to shoot it and everything, and that's why like him or Quentin Tarantino, like they're so like amazing because again, you now in 2021 there's an established name, but how hard for them was it to kind of get their story across? You mentioned Robert Rodriguez. I remember like I wasn't even like a film kid, but like whenever we got a DVD of his and everything, the Easter eggs, the Robert Rodriguez School, yeah, the Troublemaker Studios, and he would show you like things or whatever, and I was just like, I always loved stuff from behind the curtain and everything like that. Even if we go to, my wife gets annoyed where every time we go to like a concert pre-COVID or whatever, I'm figuring out a way to try and get backstage. Like I never just want to be like what you paid for. I always want more. I want Easter eggs. So
yeah, you want to take a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Kevin Smith. Good Lord. If there's one like guy, that is my guy. I am so like I would call people sir, not just out of respect, but like watching him and Muse, kind of float that out. I was just like, what are you doing, sir? And I would be so pronounced. And when the movies pop up happened in West Hollywood, I was just like, I literally like hazmat suited myself and everything like that, but I was like, I am going. This is it. So I love that. Those are your influences.
Yeah, and if you like when this movie gets released into the world, hopefully some of that will show because there's like a lot of little homages to like I don't know, is it it's a famous artist. I think I want to say maybe it was Pablo Picasso. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will watch this and correct me. But they said like good artists borrow, but great artists steal. So so it was like almost like taking a lot of my influences, and if you're like a big like comic book nerd, pro wrestling nerd, and then like indie film guy, like or like stoner comedy guy, you'll definitely see in this film like all those little influences kind of like coming together, like makeshifting a little bit out of everybody's to make this weird, wacky comedy that we made.
But that's where it's awesome, I think, and you mentioned, like the three pinnacle directors that we mentioned, right? Spike Lee, Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez. None of them, I mean, Robert Rodriguez's story is amazing. The fact that, he wanted to go to NYU, had bake sales to get that first year tuition, and then, figured out like, oh, I need a submission and whatever, and all that money went to that, but that ended up being El Mariachi. It's a great story. And again, like Kevin Smith and Clerks, like you go down the line. They weren't big budgets that they had, in their first features, and a lot of people didn't believe and didn't see the vision. But I think it's amazing at this time, right, where you can kind of buck the Hollywood system in a way more so, and like when it comes to revenue sharing, when it comes to actually, like you said, being a storyteller, you can't. You can't have your creative vision kind of go through a boardroom. That's got to be like the most unnerving thing, like for people to criticize and like tear apart your work that you've done so much. You put so much of yourself, your essence, and they just like chop it up. But you can just go and do it. And I mean, yes, it's a little bit harder to get funding and what have you, but those are the stories when those big budgets come. Guess what? You've already been there. You kind of know the deal.
And that's so funny that you mentioned that, because that's exactly like what we're trying to do. Like, we did have a few opportunities, right, and that we've had like sponsors and maybe people who would like willing to invest in our film. But then me and Mike are like, these are like people that would have their hands in this concept that then would dictate what what they want the movie to be. But it's like, we want it to be what we want it to be. Like we say it, like even in like all of our little propaganda, it'll be like, it's a movie by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. And we do want to do it outside of the system. Like, anybody who is an independent filmmaker who's like getting their stuff on streaming platforms can tell you like how crazy difficult it is to navigate through the film industry, because like aggregators are and like some of these people that see your film, like they're almost predatory in a way. Like I dealt with somebody who was like wanting to distribute the film, and they were just like, all right, we'll buy it for this, which is basically like half of the amount that our budget was to even film what we've got now. And they're like, but it'll get on all the major platforms. And a lot of filmmakers jump on that. They'll be like, oh, but it'll get out there, right? And then through a bunch of like fees and advertisement and marketing and all this, you end up like with your film, sure, being out there, but you then lose rights to like, you don't own it, and somebody else is distributing it, and you will have like kind of like lost your film. So for us, that's like really important, is to kind of get it out in this way, like through the crowdfunding. Like what we keep saying is like, hey, if 5,000 wrestling fans donate $10, this thing's in the bag, we got it made. So we want to keep it that way. Like we want less people in there. We don't even want to stream the film, to be honest with you. Like I know, like it's crazy to think, right? Like, and it's funny, like, because Kevin Smith kind of just did this with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. We want to take it on the road. Like we want to, just like how wrestling fans are used to consuming their content, right? They go to indie events. We want to make this an event. Like, we want to like kind of, since like being this like low budget, hopefully cult classic kind of thing, right? It's very niche. We want people to come out to the events and like almost participate. Like we want to do something called four-walling, which is like, hey, we'll go to a movie theater, hopefully have like a few stars of the film, do like a Q&A, have like photo ops with like props and scenes from the film and backdrops, as well as maybe like themed drinks, grab bags, goodies, like little vendors, gimmick tables. And then when you watch the film, we want it to be like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, like you participate, or like The Room, where you participate as you like watch along, for at least like the first year before we start throwing it into streaming platforms, because we want it to be an event, especially like hopefully with cases dropping, the warm weather coming in, like like there's people searching for community, and we all know like how loyal wrestling fans are, and this is for them. Like this is, I mean, like our tongue-in-cheek love letter. We keep saying that it's our tongue-in-cheek love letter to pro wrestling. Hopefully you will see that like through the film, that although we kind of like poke fun of it a lot, right? But it's something that we still really love. But yeah, we want to do it kind of outside of the system, and like I said, by wrestling fans, for wrestling fans, and not get caught up in the process that is like the Hollywood system of like, getting it, like, like anybody, I don't want to say anybody, but sure, you can get your film on iTunes or Amazon, but that takes a little bit of the mystique away from it. Like, want
Yeah.
people to come out and with their fellow fans enjoy something, or hopefully enjoy it. I don't know, right? They might not. They might hate it.
I don't know, man. I like just the trailer. I was just like, oh, I need more. Like, I need more. It was like this, like insatiable need for like more, and that's the mark of a good storyteller, right? Like whether it be wrestling, whether it be Hollywood, you always leave the audience wanting more with whatever you put out, and that's it. You know, that's something that also like I just started watching my own podcast like
Yeah.
maybe 2 months ago, right? Like because it was like white knuckling it. I was like, oh, people are just supporting me because they're supporting me, right? Like, and that's cool. But like, I only in the last couple of months like found the stride where like, oh no, I would actually listen to this. Like and it's cool to get that deal where like again, wrestling fans are going to be able to patron it. You're not gonna go through the Hollywood Reporter and have them review whatever and stars. And it's funny because like wrestling kind of relates so much into certain 5-star ratings and whatever, but like that doing it that way rather than like again the traditional Hollywood route.
Hey, don't get me wrong. We would sell out. It would just be for a butt ton of money. You know,
10 points.
so don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to selling out.
Let's put that disclaimer out there.
But yeah, as of now, within the way it stands, not selling out, bringing it to the fans. So
Yeah, no, I mean it's funny. Like as you said that, I looked at like the hybrid, just in my mind of somebody like Ted DiBiase esque or Scrooge McDuck esque, kind of sitting in his like pool of money in his vault and going
yeah,
like, oh yeah, wrestling, whatever.
yeah.
So
I
money
imagine the
marks.
Hollywood elites to be like these like sitting in fancy chairs like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, or like face shrouded in shadows and petting cats in a villainous way, and then like all like writing down a number and then sliding it to us from across the table, and then we'll be like, all right, well, I guess we're part of the Hollywood system now.
Yeah, I guess but I think it's amazing because like talking to our good brother Carl Diamond, right? Also one of my you guys are kind of like you're
Yeah, we
doing
did
your
bumps and
own
bruises
thing.
together.
Yes, and that's amazing, right? Like that's amazing that you guys, people that you like, right? And you guys doing the thing, and it's amazing, right? My friend that I actually graduated high school with, shout out to Avan Hardwell. He actually, right, like early on in the pandemic, he had his short film, basically stream on Amazon, and that was like a big thing. Which I mean,
Yeah,
it's still a big thing, but there's so many like I guess obtuse ways about going about it nowadays. Like, and for a creative type such as yourself, such as Mikey, Carl, like you guys could kind of conspire together in this thing, create it, and just go like, here you go, like there you go.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. And then like it's funny because like we met at the Bumps and Bruises thing, and that's how me and Mikey even met. Was for me like producing all the Bumps and Bruises content, and then like over time, like kind of just like started talking about things that made each other laugh or films and whatnot. And then like yeah, one day at the back of the it's for like all these things happened at a wrestling event. We were at Lucha Expo, I think, when I talked to Mikey, and yeah, and we kind of like started talking about parody films. And he's still has the idea of a film called The Wrestler instead of The Wrestler, right? Which
Yeah.
is like kind of like a parody, or like the things we kept dropping were like Dewey Cox, right? Scary Movie, like all these kind of like parody films. And then like how we would apply that to like something mixed in the sense of like Blue Demon and Santo. But yeah, like all these like kind of like connections is like, and then all like even like the connections in the film or connections that I've just made through like my years in the wrestling industry is like it's funny because I went to school for TV film production. I got into the wrestling thing, and like built relationships and learned about the industry, and then taking all that knowledge and just like Kevin Smith said, right? Like tell a story that only you can tell, and like having a little bit of that like insider knowledge of that industry, as well as like Mikey's knowledge. Um, yeah, like it just kind of came together to make this film, but it was all just things that naturally happened through relationships that were made at wrestling shows.
No, that's it. I mean, like you said, that's how we met. And there might be, and I've been trying to track this down, but there might be like some left on the cutting room floor of this guy playing his best Mean Gene. But I was like, probably the Drizzling Shits a couple of years back of interviewing like the likes of Simon Gotch, which I try to get over. Carney Strong style, because his opponent for the night was Tyler Bateman, who's also doing kind of a Carney gimmick, and I was like, Carney Strong style. It went over like a shit, like a shit in church, man. But yeah, well, but
Simon's good though. No, I think I don't. I remember the interview. I think it came out pretty well. I mean, you played your role pretty well, right? Like, kind of in a way, like the announcer has to be like winding up there or setting them up for the alley oop, and then kind of like stepping back a little bit, and that you played the role pretty well.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's sight unseen, and it's a weird one, right? Because like you're in front of the camera, but like it's like the referee, right? Like you're unseen until the pivotal moment where you need to be seen to count that 1, 2, 3, or basically call the submission and what have you, and that's it. That's kind of the weird lost art, because especially in times where like social media and everything, where like you want to be seen, but then you kind of don't want to be seen. It's weird. It's a weird paradox.
Yeah, I think the match is out there somewhere, I want to say. And if there is an interview, it's probably very cut. Because I like to, whenever I would do any of the wrestling things, I would edit the shit out of it. Like, I would just edit a lot of promos. And, like, oftentimes, I don't know if I'm giving this away, right? I would sometimes get wrestlers to do 2 or 3 promos, kind of the exact same way, and then I would just cut them up. Like a lot of the stuff that I did out of New Orleans and stuff, that's kind of how we would do it. Even with like commentating and stuff like that, you just get people to do something a few times, and then just like in film, it was weird. I don't know if a lot of other wrestling companies do that, but it was something that like I just knew from TV. I'm just like, well, you do a few takes, and then we just take the best part of all the takes. And if it's done right, the audience isn't going to notice that it's a couple different takes. But then, that you edit the performance versus actually getting the performance sometimes. Which is like also, I guess, part of my directing style was just like, hey, I know I can edit a good performance out of if I just get a little bit of this, this, and this.
No, I mean, that's the way that they shoot comedy specials. Rogan famously talks about, shooting like 2, if not 3 shows, and like sometimes even on different days with different crowds and what have you. And then, just kind of seeing what the best is, I think Heyman said it best in his reference to ECW. You accentuate the positive, hide the negatives.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you can't hide the negatives, then you just flaunt it and turn it into something and tell them that it's stylized that way.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Our good friend DJ Yeah, absolutely. Our good friend DJ Yannick's over on Twitch saying, hello from the UK, according to Woods. Great to see you as always. Good evening, Pablo. Hope you're safe and well.
What's up, DJ? Trying to be.
Yeah, no, as to you, DJ Yannick, that's a hashtag good brother right there, all the way from the UK joining us on Twitch, and that's tremendous. Now, obviously, doing this project, how did it come about, right? So, obviously, you, Carl, Mikey, know each other from Bumps and Bruises, much like I know you guys from, right? But, like, taking it one step further, like, who basically, I guess, presented this idea?
Yeah, like I said, me and Mikey had met on the Bumps and Bruises thing. He has a really good match out online that I helped produce and shot the promos for with him versus Mariachi Loco, out there somewhere. But yeah, me and Mikey just kind of knew each other, and then actually I was working Lucha Expo. and Mikey was there with a few other people, and they were like hanging out in the back, smoking pot, and you know what I'm saying, like doing the wrestler thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, we were just I think we just started talking, kind of like I said, about like parody films and about like the Blue Demon and Santo movies, about like Adult Swim comedies, like absurdism kind of comedies, like in the vein of like Aqua Teen Hunger Force or even like Eric Andre kind of stuff. And and then we talked about like why nobody has ever done like origin stories for wrestlers. Like I'm like, why has nobody, like, is with WWE with the budget that they have?
Yeah.
Hopefully nobody there is watching this, and eventually they do it before we can release our movie. But why I'm like, why isn't there like a cool like Undertaker Kane? Like that's probably one of the best stories right ever told. Like why wouldn't you do that cinematically almost
Mhm.
and give me like an origin story of like young Taker and Kane and letting me see that fire, and then maybe like young Paul Bearer coming in and like I don't know,
Yeah.
like seducing Undertaker's mom or whatever,
Yes.
like I would I kind of we imagined that in our minds, and that was like a really great storyline, and then we kind of placed the pieces there, and it was done really well and brilliantly, but it's like I love the story so much, it's like I almost want more. So I was like, why has nobody really done that? And he has this character, right, Dirty Ron, and we just kind of thought like kind of how absurd it would be to give him that origin story. And then Mikey just like, I tell people all the time because I have people approach me and like usually when I'm doing production stuff and they'll be like, hey, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And I'm always like open to do whatever. But in order to like, it's tough sometimes when you're doing that sort of thing with somebody who doesn't have any production experience, because then they'll be like, kind of like, hey, you do it, right? So I kind of encourage people to meet me halfway. I'm like, you know what? If you put this down on paper for me, like this idea or this story, and then email it to me, or if you do this, this, and this, and meet me halfway, I'll take it the other way. And
Mhm.
Mikey followed through, right? He's somebody who like follows through with the shit he says. It's crazy. Uh, but he like followed through, and he sent me this like elaborate email of just like it wasn't a script, but it was still like almost the beats to a story. With like like dialogue and then like actions and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. But it was very like it was very basic, kind of like outline of the story. And I'm like, let me take this and let me like see if I can actually turn it into like a script. He kind of just had like the little like origin stuff of Dirty Ron, like how he gets into trouble, who he is. He's basically like the son of Ronald McDonald and the grandson of Old McDonald, and and he's like the screw up kind of the family. And I was like, this is great. Like, right, I can take a little bit of everything. I can take a little like kind of like Black Sheep, Chris Farley humor. There's like elements of like Happy Gilmore, and then like and then Rocky, kind of like a Rocky story in there as well. And initially we had like a bunch of different people like in mind for a bunch of different roles, but I'm like, let me just flesh this out, and actually took it and turned it into like a 3-act story. And he was like, oh, holy shit, like this is crazy, like this is actually like a story now. There's actually like a character arc here where like a character starts off one way, right, and ends up another way. And he's like, let's do it, like let's make it happen. I'm like, well, and I think when we started, we were initially like in the vein of like Robert Rodriguez and Mariachi. I'm like, let's do it. Like, let's just so I can shoot it for like, we just need like $7,000, I think, and we can get this thing done. Just like a few little locations, and just like me and my camera, a sound guy, a lighting guy, and my Jeep. And in the process of like starting to put all these like pieces together, I found like a lighting guy. I found Justin sorry, I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm not gonna say it. But Justin, who's been around like the wrestling world a lot too, he came on to be our sound guy, and we started finding like locations through Peerspace, and it started turning into like an actual production to where we're like, hey, this is gonna be a little bit more than $7,000. I think this is like actually turning into a movie, like an actual
Mhm.
movie. And it did like naturally in like building relationships and bringing other team members on. We would kind of like add other little things that would make it a little bit more legit. That and all that so until we got to the shooting day, and like here we are in like a really nice location, this like loose loft in San Diego with like a full on gaffer and like a lighting crew and a cinematographer and a sound guy and like even like our schedule was almost just like handwritten, like, okay, we'll shoot this day, and then this day. And like me, like I mean, just like of my naivety of just like, hey, I've done X amount of projects in 4 days or 3 days before. Like this will be a breeze. But when it turned into a real production, I'm like, oh no, this is something that we're now has turned into an actual film. Like actual films just aren't shot in 4 days, right? Like that's just not how it works. But within those 4 days, we tried to maximize as much as possible, and shot about 50% of the film, um, with a budget of about $35,000. And it was,
Wow.
yeah. So it started at 7,000, and it ended at about 35,000, and eventually, like we were just like, hey, like we've exhausted our resources, like we need to like go back and regroup and figure out a way to shoot the other half of this film. Lucky for me, I had brought on some really talented people, Guido Oreo, Callie Beach, who are two producers on the film, who have like spent so many like countless hours working with me on like trying to figure out the logistics of shooting the other half of this thing, which is where we got to our budget where we're at in our IndieGoGo. But all of this from a conversation at the back of the Lucha Expo while there's a bunch of wrestlers who will not be named, just smoking pot, and yeah, and then like we didn't even cast anybody. Like we didn't audition anybody. We were just like, hey, I think this role, like, let's write these parts right here for like the Lucha homies, right? Mariachi Loco and Lil Cholo, like they're really entertaining. They've been doing their stuff on YouTube. Let's just like let's write it for them, and then approach them with the idea. And they like read it, and they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to do it. Let's do it. And then just like a bunch of things like that, like right, even like the role of the Moo Mauler is to Rob Van Dam, right? And like Rob and Mikey were in Vegas, and Mikey gave Rob the script, and Rob loved the script. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And it's just like, so it's like it's we didn't cast or like audition anybody for it. We're just like, these are the people we have in mind for these roles. Let's float them the ideas and see what they all say, and then just somehow magically they all agreed to it for whatever for whatever reason. Even knowing that Rob would have to jump into a dumpster, he read that, and he still agreed to do it. And somehow we got him to jump into a dumpster at some point during our filming.
That's
But
not. That's awesome, though. I mean,
it's
that's
yeah, it is a field of dreams story, right? Like if you build it, it will
yeah.
come. And we started building it, and it turned into a real Hollywood movie, as Tommy Wiseau would say.
I yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant, and the art of an origin story. That's the reason why I like wrestlers that we grew up with, are so like iconic, right? The Mr. Perfect vignettes, right, and him throwing the football and then
Oh
catching
man, so
it,
good.
and like I didn't know. Well, I knew football. But I didn't know who Wade Boggs was, like in baseball, but like him, hitting the ball and then catching it, and like I was like, oh damn, like this is something, all right? Or the $1 million man. Those are like those. You need more of that in wrestling. Wrestling is
Characters, oh for sure.
the best when it is
When it's characters, right? Like,
right.
yeah, I agree. Like, I need more characters and like that's I think something that's. I mean, I'm still a huge fan of wrestling, but some things that are like lost, like not to like bash anybody, but like for example, like Ricochet, right? Like,
Yeah.
dude has all the ingredients. He's so talented, like
Mm-hmm.
he's so good, right? But there's not like much of a character there for him, where he's
Right.
kind of like almost getting lost in the shuffle because he doesn't have a way to tell a story about himself, I think, on the microphone. Like I really loved his Prince Puma run in Lucha Underground because there was story for there, like there was meat for me to grab
Mm-hmm.
onto there. Whereas now in WWE, he's just like, hey, he's the guy that's like super athletic, which is great, but it's like I need something to really invest into, and people invest into stories. So yeah, like for sure, more characters, and that was like even the thing about the Dirty Ron character. It's like I don't need to explain to anybody half the jokes or the humor. Like we get it. Everybody knows who. I don't even know. Like we're not in the film legally saying like Ronald McDonald, but
Right.
we kind of like nudge at it. So it's like I don't need to imply like who this person. You get it. Like it's just there. The visuals are all there, and like there's a built-in story to this character kind of already, to where hopefully like the audience like is like, oh, haha, that's funny. Like I get it. Ronald McDonald screw up son.
Yeah, no, 100%. Which, I mean, in terms of like backstories and origin stories, DJ Yannick says, in terms of like mainstream wrestling, would that work? I'm big on the Attitude Era, and I don't think today's talent could pull off such stories, unfortunately, especially with a virtual crowd. That's why, I mean, we're a day removed from the Fiend coming back, and that's like, to me, that's the most concise storytelling that the WWE has done for a while, right? And that's also with like AEW, right? Not to bash them, but like one of my favorite tag teams is the Butcher and the Blade, right? But their debut, right? It was just like, even Jim Ross was like, "Who's that? Excalibur, Butcher. Who's that? Blade. Who's that? Bunny." You're not telling us who it is, man.
Yeah, give us more. In all due respect, TJ, I disagree. I think now more than ever they have an opportunity to do that because you don't have a live audience. Like before,
Yeah.
you were kind of like chained into doing everything live. Like that, I love this stuff with like the Fiend. Like I watched the pay-per-view last night, and I loved like
Yeah.
the Alexa Bliss thing, and I loved the Fiend look. I think like him coming back like all burnt and melted, like all the little things, like the lights falling down, like all those things you now kind of have the liberty to do. Even like the Apollo Crews thing, where he where he smashes. Yeah, he's just all of a sudden like
No,
Nigerian
I
prince.
love it because I like, as you said it. I might be in. So I heard Willie Mack, Impact Wrestling, and he had an interesting scenario of like how that all happened, which I don't know. He's like, "Hey, maybe that one of the writers are like, hey, you're African. Can you do a Wakandan accent? Cool, bro. Let's go."
Look, I'm sold on it. Like I will suspend as a wrestling fan. Like we will suspend disbelief.
Yeah,
Like give me something. I love like it's like since there's no crowd there, I obviously don't think that a giant set of stairs really fell onto Big E's head. But you know what? I love the way that you did that
yeah,
because you have the liberty to do that now that there's not a live audience there. So you can fill in like story things. I love his new gimmick because I think that's all he was lacking, was just like a gimmick.
yeah.
And I really just think that they're dropping the ball by not giving him the finisher move of the fisherman suplex, spelled with a PH, because it's like,
Oh,
fishing
nice,
schemes, because he's,
nice,
a Nigerian prince. but
nice.
I,
I
I
like
really
that.
like, I like that they're doing those sort of things, and I think like even like when Matt Hardy came back to AEW when they did that weird little like him like appearing through the different parts of the crowd, it's like, hey, you have the ability to play around with
Yeah,
this a little bit more. So do it, like maximize that sort of thing. I think kind of like where WWE. I mean, I'm nobody to criticize it. I love it either way, right? I'm a wrestling
right.
fan of all of it. I don't watch anything that I hate. Um, but like I want more of that. Like I loved the Money in the Bank to the top of the tower. Like like I would have done things a little bit differently just because I see things as a filmmaker. But like I love the Undertaker WrestleMania thing. Like just go with that a little bit more. But I mean, I don't know. They're such a money making machine. Maybe they just don't have to, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have that luxury, so I try to think of all those like little creative things, right? Of like maximizing the storytelling. But yeah, like I think without that audience, they have a lot more opportunity to do really cool stuff.
I, I agree. I agree. Which, this is why I am so excited for I mean, Dirty Ron's origin story, right? And you've got some, like you mentioned, Lucha Homies, and shout out to Little Cholo, who unfortunately had some health stuff befell him. So apparently he's okay. I mean, you know, but like Mariachi Loco and Little Cholo, for those who don't know, obviously, I mean, Little Cholo is a California wrestling legend. You know, you guys know him from both of them from Lucha Underground and what have you. Like, you've got them, you've got Rob Van Dam, you've got Katie Forbes, you got Victoria, which that was fun because, like, shout out to George Hermosa and the Wrestling Chatter, or the Wrestling Chatter, because I want to say she was filming with you guys around the time that George and I basically interviewed her, chronicling her 1 year feud with Trish Stratus. Like, and that was right around that same time, and I was just like, oh, cool. Like, you know, this is fun. But you've got some really big names to kind of, and that's got to be cool, right? As a storyteller, but also a pro wrestling fan, you know, to be able to write, like, I mean, Rob Van Dam's character, right? Kind of like the Mickey, you know, in Rocky, if you relate it to
Yeah,
Rocky, right? And
totally.
but it's Rob Van Dam playing the part that you wrote for him, the dialogue that you and Mikey kind of conspired to, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's crazy. Like, yeah, like writing thing. Like, at some point in my life, I played Rob as a character in a video game, right? Like as a kid, right? And yeah, here I am, like having written dialogue, and then watching him, like, my words kind of come out of his mouth, and him make it come to life. And even just like the character in general, he had posted a picture of like me, him, and Mikey, and he like, we have him in like the white hair, and he's like, he's basically like what I told him. I'm like, is I want you to be like Mickey meets Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty, like just like he's and I came up with just like my makeshift version of like a concept art, and sent it to him, with like the white hair all down, and like the homeless person like look and everything like that, like a tie-dye shirt. And yeah, like seeing him turn into that was like really cool, and just like, yeah, a little surreal, but and like, and you're like almost like, especially like me being like new director, you're like kind of nervous because you're like, man, this is like, this dude's a star, right? Like, who am I to like give him direction?
Hmm.
But he was so great, and just like such a professional, and like delivered just like 100%, and just like was so gung ho to even just have him, like, yeah, like be so involved, and actually like, because I mean, like from like being like a producer, like on wrestling, like in indie wrestling shows, is such a tough task sometimes, because it's like,
Yeah,
it's like you have to like chase people down, and like
yeah,
be like, hey, we need to get this promo, and like it's weird that I feel like some independent or freelance talent doesn't perceive like a value in production, or that what I'm talking about, which is like character or storytelling, in that sense of what happens outside of the ring to supplement what happens inside of the ring. And it's like maddening. It's like, why am I chasing you down to cut a promo for your match
yeah,
that is going to showcase you, that
yeah.
you're going to share? So it's like, and it's like some people are really good about it, but some people really suck about it. And so it's just like, in the wrestling world is like, it's such a toss up. Is like, is this person gonna, like be one of these people that is a little bit more difficult? But once we were on a film set, it's a whole different environment than backstage at a pro wrestling event.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super awesome, like working with Rob, and gonna continue working with him, to like finish off the film. But like, yeah, it's really cool. I think people are really gonna dig like his character in the movie. He is like really funny. Rob's really funny in general. Like, I feel
Yeah, he
like in
is.
a very like dry, I don't want to say unintentional way, but he's just like everyday funny. Like, he just throws in little like jokes and dry deadpan humor that if you don't know that he's joking, you're like kind of like, what, are you serious right now? Or I don't know. But yeah, he's really great. So hopefully, like, getting to highlight how hilarious he is, and him playing this absurd character that we first meet like eating a burger in a dumpster. Like it's gonna be just like so great, right? Because we've seen Rob as Rob for 20
Yeah.
plus years. He's been that guy. Yeah, yeah. Like so like this is like, hey, this Rob Van Dam, but in a way different way than I've been used to. He's very humble, but I think it's like, Rob Van Dam like you haven't seen Rob Van Dam before.
I
So
love that.
donate.
Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love it, man. That's why I am especially excited to see the final product. Now, speaking in terms of your kind of directorial storytelling point of view, DJ Yannick wants to know, speak of The Undertaker. Should Brock have taken the streak? And how would you have written it, Pablo? And who, if not Brock, would have taken Undertaker's undefeated streak?
It's funny. I was actually there because that's my hometown in
Really?
New Orleans. Yeah, I was eighth row behind the announce table. Uh, yeah, I had worked. I had been working like wrestling and like helping out with the company I was working for, different events. I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't have. I thought that was great. Like I thought it was perfect. I know. I said I don't. Obviously, like as a fan, you always have your fantasy bookings, but I don't. I don't think too deeply into it because I kind of just want to sit back sometimes and just enjoy it as a fan. And let me tell you, like I don't know how it translated to TV. I've watched it a few times, but like at the event, it was like amazing. It was like almost like dead silence because the crowd didn't know what to make of it. So I got a slightly different experience being there because it's like everybody was like looking around at each other. Like no joke, like this arena full of people almost came to just like dead silence, and everybody was like, "Was that supposed to happen?" That was weird. There was like a delay in the music. It seemed like unrehearsed or unscripted. It seemed off the cuff. It seemed like it wasn't supposed to happen. And there's even like a famous thing online with like Paul Heyman like planting the seed of doubt into people. It's like who would have stopped Brock Lesnar if Brock Lesnar actually wanted to do that, right? It seemed
Yeah.
weird. And I love that. Like I love the blurring of the lines. So I can't book that, in my opinion, any more perfectly. Obviously, like right, we all are like, well, the streak should have been it. Like we should have kept going or whatever. But I understand that booking, like for WWE to have built Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar is like a huge attraction. He's like a once in a generation kind of talent, and yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything about it. I love the blurring of the lines. I'm a big fan of the Montreal Screwjob and the Bret Hart Wrestling with Shadows documentary,
Oh, jeez.
and the Kevin Sullivan,
Oh,
Wicker
yes.
Man, Brian Pillman shoot
Oh,
interviews
yeah.
of
In
Brian
Vegas,
Pillman like
yeah.
getting himself fired. Like I love all that stuff, which is like yeah, like the sort of thing that hopefully like that you get out of movies too, like taking in this media in a different way is kind of like stepping outside of just like how would this be booked, and then just like kind of enjoying a story that hopefully I don't know, makes you think about these things for hours at a time.
Yeah. No, so, not that anybody's asking, but I'm going to throw mine out there. Ending the
Yeah.
streak? Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt. And it would, yeah. Oh, King of the Hocus Pocus. I mean, like, that's the thing. Undertaker has this, like, kind of unique aura. You talk about origin stories and what have you, right? And so, again, and not to say that Bray didn't, I mean, would have not done without it, because obviously after Fastlane last night, that was what everybody was talking about going into it. A lot of people, especially, I think, even like the pairing of Alexa Bliss and everything like that, it works so well. I just think that extra little like pizzazz, right? If it's all smoke and mirrors anyway,
Yeah, because they had a match, didn't they? Like the
yeah,
week before.
at Mania, and even so, Undertaker went over with Wyatt, as well as the Wyatt family with Rowan and the dearly departed Brody Lee, Luke Harker. I was like, that would have been a great moment, as I, I don't know. That for me,
A
that's it.
proverbial passing of the torch between the two
Yes,
supernatural characters.
yes.
Yeah, I would have been happy with that too. I do remember their match and thinking like, hey, like if you're gonna end it, this would probably be the good way to end it because you're building this one supernatural character. Obviously, that didn't happen, but yeah, I definitely would have enjoyed that as well. I mean, I'm not I enjoy it all. It's like I'm like easy to please, like in certain things, because like I said, I think I know a little bit about like how hard it is sometimes to tell stories on a weekly basis like that. That's tough. So of course they're not all going to be home runs, but you're going to have your little moments. But I would have loved to probably have seen Bray as well. That's a really good idea
I
for
like
sure.
it. I mean, I like it, and in regards to RVD is quite the repertoire of acting and voiceover work. Very versatile. Yep. Hashtag never forget.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's really good. Like I said, I think we did a table read before everything, right? That's like the process. You like read through the script of your talent, and I was just like, and this is just it was my mindset on everybody because we didn't audition anybody. I was like, man, if somebody doesn't deliver, at least I know I can direct enough to edit a good performance out of them. Um, and Rob's character has like the second most like lines in the film aside from our main character, kind of right. He has like the story. So I was like, when he like showed up to the table read, like his delivery, I was just like couldn't have been any more perfect. And yeah, I mean, it just shows like why he's Rob Van Dam. He's like he really is like a professional. He's like so laid back, like sometimes, where you're like hey, are you here with me? Are you taking it seriously? Like it's because he's just like legitimately like his gimmick is and who he is. He's got a very cool demeanor
Yeah.
to where I've worked with talent before that's like so like in your face and kind of like almost like you have to. I mean, not sometimes you have to hold people's hands through it, but it was like
Yeah.
Rob was so cool about it, and I was just like, okay. And then it came like his turn to the table read, and I was just like, oh my god, he's killing it, like just out of the friggin' gate. Like, yeah, it's so wrestlers, man, are so talented. Like, in and we just like don't give them enough credit for the type of performers that we are. And that was like another thing in the film. It was like that we wanted to exclusively like have a bunch of wrestlers in it. Like it's like showcasing wrestlers in a different way. Like when I said like you're gonna see Rob, how you haven't seen him. Like I want to showcase like the talent that these dudes have in a way that maybe we're not used to seeing them. And then like hopefully we get more of these films. Like that's kind of the plan is like to have a pro wrestling movie. This is a pro wrestling movie, Legend of Dirty Ron. We can do like a pro wrestling movie, The Lucha Homies. Like
Yeah.
there's like so many possibilities, and the entire plan, what we have like baked in the entire way, is like we want it to feature wrestlers outside of just the way they've been showcased in the squared circle. Like I want to see like grizzled honky tonk man in like an old western film. Like I want to see like just them play almost different characters. Like I would love to see like Scott Hall in almost maybe even like a gritty Scarface style like film. Like like a bunch of different possibilities with like how talented wrestlers are. It's like, hey, give them other stories and other characters that they can kind of like mold into.
I love it. Oh my gosh! Like I kind of got the goosebumps because I'm all like, could this be the start of a wrestling movie cinematic universe? Like that would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what we want. We want to be like, well, obviously this is comedy, right? So we were like, we want to be like what National Lampoons is to like, comedy and film. We want to do that for like wrestling fans and have that franchise for wrestling fans. That hopefully, it starts off with this one, and who knows where it goes from there.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Now, DJ Yannick's booking of the Undertaker. He actually says he's throwing his hat. He said Bray Wyatt would have been a good one, but maybe Sandow, if he wasn't such a dweeb, when he blew his
Damien
money in the bank
Sandow?
run. Yeah, and he said the whole savior gimmick he had going on. I agree, and I mean in terms of especially when they started to, uh, I guess stylize the briefcase with the character.
Yeah.
I thought his version with the actual, and maybe it was just me. My Fijian mom was like, "Dress for success." So when everybody had like Jansport backpacks and everything, she would go to the secondhand store and grab me a briefcase and like, "That's your backpack with penny loafers. Go!" Like, but like
Fanciest
that was
kid in school. Yeah.
oh man, my mom, bless her soul. Jeez, my goodness. Yeah, it was with actual pennies in the loafers. So I'm just, yeah, man, the whole gimmick, you know,
Yeah.
which, you know, talking it from a story perspective, right? Yaz Beats wants to know. A question for your guests. What do you think of AEW? And I'm going to add one more kind of asterisk to it. If there was a character that you could book the origin story to now, who would that be? So that's a two-parter.
Oh, that's okay. So I love AEW. I was a WCW fan growing up, so I kind of feel like I can see what they're doing, like kind of trying to bring a little bit of like old WCW and like develop it. I love all wrestling. Like I watch it all. I'm not strictly like I watch WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor. You know what I'm saying? Impact whenever I can. I mean, like it's obviously hard to keep up with all of it,
Yeah.
so I do keep up with it via social media. I watch like Lucha Libre. So I love what AEW is doing. I love Chris Jericho. I think he still like has so much to like give to the industry and is like still so entertaining. And like watching like him like surround himself with some really amazing young talent and kind of
Mm-hmm.
like giving them a platform and giving back to the business, as they say. I love it. Like I'm hopefully like yeah, like I love like this. I love Sting. That was my favorite wrestler growing up. Sting and Ric Flair. So like the Darby Allin thing, that match, man. And then Ricky Starks, who I was lucky enough to work with back in the day a few times. Like I love seeing Ricky out there because he's just that dude is so ridiculously talented, and I think he's just like a superstar. And having like seen his feud with like the Darby Allin Sting thing, that's probably my favorite thing going on right now in AEW. Um, but yeah, I love it all. Like I can't say that it's one or the other. I just love wrestling.
That,
I just,
I,
I just
I love
I
that you
don't
love it. I love it too.
yeah,
Like,
like all indie promotions, everything. I watch it all.
no, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, and it's funny, right? Because like, especially with me dabbling with both MMA and pro wrestling and whatever. Like, pro wrestling fans aren't too kind to MMA, right? MMA fans and diehards aren't too kind to pro wrestling. They don't want, they're purists. They don't want pro wrestling in their MMA, right? But when you talk to professional wrestlers, they love MMA. Look at Vader's gloves. Look at Undertaker's gloves in recent years, right? Then Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn. I would not know about MMA at all. Well, not at all. I would have known at this point. The lid's already out. But like the way that I know it, Dan Severn walking onto WWF TV with three belts that were non WWF belts, right? And I knew the 10 pounds of gold from Harley Race. So like I knew that, and I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like Vince is letting somebody else on, and then also pairing him with Jim Cornette, instant heat. I was just like. And then what I knew about like pro wrestling, right? Like I'm a huge, huge Heart mark, right? Like Heart Foundation mark. My kid's name is Owen. Had Georgia Smith, the daughter of British Bulldog, and Diana Hart, granddaughter of Stu. And it's just like, that's it. So again, Stu Hart, right, had a bunch of kids. All the dudes, all the kids, the boys, wrestlers, right? All the girls, married wrestlers. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you thought Brett and Owen were badasses, well, guess what? Stu is choking out bears. Like, he would choke out, right?
They have
Like,
a
in a
bear.
place
They
called the
live.
Dungeon.
They have
Like,
a
I
bear
was
in
just like,
their house.
Yeah, that was
It's
it.
funny it's funny you say that because that was gonna be the like no joke. That was gonna be the answer to my question. Your question about like who would you book an origin story for? I was obsessed with the Bret Hart book, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Pro Wrestling.
Yeah,
I think it's like one of the best wrestling books out there. Like, you know, so if I were like to transition into like storytelling, like from a film standpoint, like I think about that book and I think about like why isn't there a movie on this book, right? Like, so I'm not. It wouldn't necessarily be like an origin story of like, but it is, right? It's like because Brett is part of the Hart family. It's kind of his gimmick, and I think that's like a story that's just like dying to be told of just that dynasty in the wrestling. Dude, I just watched the Young Rock on
yeah, yeah,
DC. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I don't know if everybody's tuning into this or not, but I'm like obsessed with it now
yeah.
because he tells all the stories about like his grandmother and his dad and like hanging out with like Andre the Giant and Iron Sheik. It's like that stuff is so interesting as a wrestling fan. Like having grown up seeing those characters. So like the same thing. Like I mean, obviously, I think the Bret Hart one would be a little bit grittier almost. But yeah, like I would probably like want to make that book into a movie somehow.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm again, I'm gonna take creative liberties, but like, I would love to see you do an origin story for Butcher and the Blade. Like, I'm not, because again, they're too. I mean, especially with Andy Williams as the bass player for As I Lay Dying and everything. There's so much. You've got the Braxton Sutter stuff from Impact and everything like that. But he's a different thing. Why they called the Butcher? Why they called the Blade? Why they called the Bunny? Like,
Well, both. So those two of the characters are like inspired by probably two of my favorite movies. Like obviously, like The Butcher is like Gangs of New York, right? Which is an amazing film. Which I'm just like one of the films that I'm really obsessed with. Like the longest time I wanted to get like a dead rabbit tattooed on me. I never got to do that, but so like that, and then the Blade character is from a film called Nightbreed, which there's this character called Dr. Decker. His mask is literally Dr. Decker's mask in that film. If you guys haven't seen Nightbreed, it's Clive Barker, the guy who did Hellraiser,
yeah, yeah,
and it's about like I guess the like dead or undead creatures that live in this like cemetery, and there's also a really amazing comic book out there that I'm obsessed with, written by Mark and Draco. So I like already loved those characters because I got kind of where they were coming from already, and like two of my favorite films. Like obviously wrestling's always done that, right? Kind of been inspired by like this Sting is clearly like the Crow, right?
yeah.
And I love the Crow, but yes, I would totally love to sink my teeth into somebody who's got like those fleshed out characters like that, especially if they're inspired by probably two of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I love it. I love it. And you'd be the guy to do it. I'm gonna say, like, obviously you've got a project and what have you, but like, you for AEW Booker, I'm gonna throw my hat in there. That's what I want.
But I can produce the crap out of some segments. If anybody
Yeah,
from AEW is thinking about it, I might be for hire after we're done with this film.
I'm just saying. I like it. I like where it's going. Now, DJ Yannick says the delay makes the conversation jump all over the place, but that's the beauty of podcasting. So don't even worry. I'll keep quiet after my final question. Pablo, what is the choice of socks you chose today? And was it a difficult one to make? And what color are they? Peace, love, and keep on keeping on, according to Woods. I love this. And if you watch the show in recent weeks, that's DJ Yannick's deal. All right? If you know he's in the comments, he's going to ask for socks. So give him what he wants.
Dude, crew cut socks. These are just some Puma athletic socks. I don't know. I like my socks to be airy, to not feel like they're constricting my feet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, just be comfortable because after this, I'm gonna, put on my sneakers and go on a bike ride. So.
Hey, there you go. I like it.
They're blue and black and gray. Blue, black, and gray. They're pretty boring,
blue,
actually.
black, and gray. Those are great. I love it. Now, obviously, dude, have loved and appreciated your work for so long, but there's been so many people that have, attributed to your vision, your success, both professionally and personally. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like it's like I said, Guido, Oreo, and Callie Beach. Callie is my first AD, and she's also even coming in to do like producer work. I like it's in the film industry. Like it's so weird because it's like I'm like writing this thing, and I have like a weird mind of just like I'm just not like organized all the time. Like I have the vision and the idea and the story, and I can put it down, but it's like when it comes down to like, hey, how do we make a schedule? How do we organize things? Like some of those people are just like they are the unsung heroes of this film. Curb Zagmeister, who's our DP, he he did this amazing movie back in the late '90s called "The Mating Habits of the Earthbound Human," which I found out after the fact that I worked with him. It's just like Carmen Electra movie, which is really amazing. And for whatever reason, he loved our script enough to be like, "All right, I'm in, and we'll work for peanuts." Although he's like way bigger and worth way more than what we pay him. Um, Madison Huckabee was our script supervisor on the film. She has a second last name, Buds. Madison Huckabee Buds. Was like everybody that was on set with us, like Ryan Kidd, my cousin Olivia King, who did like a lot of behind the scenes photo shoots. My friend Jessica Harbor Dunn, who is our DIT. Like all these like people that like followed us around for 4 days and like made these things come into like reality. Like this weird fucking strange idea that Mikey and I had of just like this guy's Ronald McDonald's son and Old McDonald's grandson, and you know what? One day he meets a fucking homeless guy who sees him having like a fight with his manager and trains him to be a pro wrestler. Like just it's such a fucking weird concept. I was like, I don't. People are gonna see this and be like, "Are you bananas? Like, are you just? I don't know." And it's funny because then they read my script and they're like, "This is really good." And I was like, "Oh, what?" I was not expecting that. Like, yeah, like, dude, it's crazy. Ralph Eastman, who was just like our PA, but like more than just a PA, like especially like on a smaller budget film, man. Like having people that are flexible and willing to wear like a bunch of different hats. Like there's in the trailer we have the guy who we're naming Jack Jr. or whatever. But it's like the Jack in the Box head, and we had to make it different, right? Because it can't be the Jack in the Box head.
Yeah.
So like my cousin Olivia, who's doing all the behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, Olivia, can you like play around with this a little bit while I like work with the actors? And she did so great. And then I just came in and added a few little details. Like everybody, man, that was there just like was not afraid to wear different hats and be involved, and all believed in the project enough to where they all just like put everything in there. But I mean, I guess Mikey Hawes and Marty Hill, right? Obviously, like with the bumps and bruises thing, I would have never met Mikey, Dirty Ron, for us to like come together. Yeah, Justin was just like so great with sound and everything. Like I don't know, man. Like we lucked out. Like I said, it was like Field of Dreams. Like if you build it, they will come, and everybody just like showed up and gave it 110% and believed in this project. We really believe in this project. Like as wacky as it is, like I said, I think there is. If you're a fan of wrestling, there's like a lot of stuff that's not in that trailer. That's going to be like fun surprise cameos, story, homage, inside humor. And hopefully, if you're like not a fan of wrestling and just like love stoner comedies and weird shit, you will also like this because it is the ultimate stoner comedy and extremely weird. But yeah, man, I get that's my shot at it, is like the people who were there, like still doing it with us. Like even Callie and Guido, like we went to the fuck house. That's what it's called. But like and they helped us film all the promo stuff for the IndieGoGo thing. Like they're just amazing, and like the contribution and their time and energy hopefully will pay off, and hopefully the wrestling community. Well, I no doubt the wrestling community will like it. I'm a fan, so I would like to think that since we're making it for wrestling fans, like me as a fan stepping outside of it, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be really into this, right? So
I love it. I love it. And I again, I that's why the Young Rock is so awesome, right? That's why there's certain things like the wrestler. Even though I personally didn't like the ending, I love Bruce Springsteen. I love pro wrestling. I
yeah,
have never not wanted to hear Bruce Springsteen as little as the end of the wrestler, because I, again, as a form of entertainment, you're supposed to dictate to me what's going on. I don't want to think about what could happen or whatever
oh
to Randy the
yeah,
Ram, like whatever. Like he jumps off the rope and then you hear Bruce Springsteen, one of my idols, fucking talking about wrestling, and I didn't want it. I wanted to know what the fuck happened to Randy the Ram. Like,
yeah.
so I
Sopranos-esque ending there.
yeah, so I love that you're kind of letting us, like you are dictating the story to us. It
Oh
is
yeah,
weird
yeah.
because it's supposed to be weird. Like fuck yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that.
no, no Sopranos ending in our film. We're gonna lay it all out there for you. We'll give you a nice closure, and I mean, like hopefully build towards more, leave you wanting more, as well as building for more. So
Yeah, hell yes, hell yes. And in regards to the sock question, it's what the people want to know, not just me. Cheers, Pablo. Take care. So, shout
hey,
out to
thank you,
DJ
Jay.
Yannick's over in the UK. Hope you are well. It is late there. But for those, and I kind of help you out and put the links in the description, but for those who want to know more about a pro wrestling movie, The
Yeah,
Legend of Dirty
wrestling.
Ron. Yes. Where can they find out more about it as well as you, Pablo?
Me, I am Pablo effing Persona on all social media, and it's funny, right? Because the effing Pablo effing Persona, Pablo FN Persona Persona, is totally a ripoff of Rob Van Dam's whole effing show. I had that for years because I was like loved it, right? And I love Jerry Lynn too, and he's like new effing show. But yeah, like Pablo effing Persona for me on all social media. But the real thing is a pro wrestling movie. It's a pro wrestling movie. Wrestling is spelled Rasslin. Movie. Hopefully, you guys all know how to spell movie, and you said you included links on all social media except for Twitter, because for some reason it was too long on Twitter. If we put an A, so it's just Pro Wrestling Movie on Twitter. But we're on Instagram, Facebook, and then of course, most importantly, we're on IndieGoGo, which is the big one right there, right? You can see our trailer on our Instagram. You can see our trailer on our Indiegogo. I think you can just search up a pro wrestling movie on Indiegogo, or if you go to our social media or to our website, all the links are there. If you need it, it's igg.me/at a pro wrestling movie is the quickest link. With the remaining budget we're trying to get is about 50 grand. Like I said, if we can all spread the word, I just need 5,000 wrestling fans to donate $10. And you get a cool little perk out of it. You get a copy of this weird ass script. So you can see, there's three movies, right? There's the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit. So you can see the one that we wrote, and then you can see the final product, as well as get a cool little digital poster. But yeah, and that's what perks start at $10. Escalate from there. But yeah, like I said, we want to get the word out. I'm confident that there's at least 5,000 wrestling fans that will want to see this movie. It's just all about directing the eyes, and spreading the word and getting them to know that this movie does exist.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's no cons, right? There's no live events, right? So if you've got some cash to kind of, patron wrestling, I can't think of a better way to do it. You
Dude,
might
we
not
gotta
like
shut
what's
up for
going on in
Vince
the
Russo.
big leagues. Support this movie.
Yeah, hey, if this is a different. We have a full wrestling match in our film. It's just going to be edited cinematically, right? And Effie, if you guys know who Effie is, plays our villain. So it comes down to like Mikey and Effie. So we do have a full-on wrestling match. So this is still a wrestling product. Like at the end of the day, like it's still a story that leads up to a match, which is in our third act. So yeah, if you like wrestling and you want to see it in a different way, if you want to see these talents that you've loved in a different way, it's something we're fresh. I like this Russo, like I said, commented on our IndieGoGo, and I was just like, whoa, what the hell? And he was just like, hey, if you want to get in on something new from wrestling from the ground floor, this is it. And hopefully he's right. This is going to be a new way of viewing something that you dearly love.
Oh man, I love it. I love it because that's it, right? That's part of the fun, right? And seeing different promotions, different promoters and everything. The concept is the same. The ring, whether there's a ring, whether there's no ring or whatever, essentially it's the same. But part of going to different venues, part of doing that is seeing what that promoter, that the way the matches are told, right? The two wrestlers see the concept of pro wrestling. So it's a nice little kind of convergence of all things artistic. It's almost a renaissance of sort. And there isn't a better renaissance in terms of storytelling than pro wrestling. So again, you guys go ahead and check out all of the social medias for a Pro-Rrasslin movie. I know I have, and you should too. And again, don't just take our word for it. I mean, Vince Russo, I'm just saying, he booked the shit.
Yeah, watch the trailer.
Damn
the trailer.
Damn right. Pablo, it has been amazing to have you on. I almost feel like, I think I've gotten lightning in a bottle right here because once I'm probably going to have to, next time we talk to your agent and all this jazz and whatever. So it's cool that I actually just called you the person, not your people. So thank you for that. But probably the next time we do this, it probably won't be that way.
Dude, you can hit me up. Even if I do get all big time and sell out, you can always hit me up and I will respond. But yeah, thank you so much for having me and giving me the platform to talk about this crazy ass film.
No, you're amazing. Yeah, the honor is all mine, and hopefully, we'll kind of sound the drum for the folks, the board of directors at Bumps and Bruises to get some of the art that we both put together out in the limelight. Not banning limelight. He's in the intro, but yeah, well, But again, thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods, and if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Pablo, you're subscribed, right?
Oh, totally.
Hell yes. So be like Pablo, the visionary that he is, and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, donate to the IndieGoGo, and but if you don't believe our word for it, here's Pro Wrestlers Zeta Zang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zang. Make sure you subscribe to According